In a quiet part of the world, there were two small communities living close to each other. For many years, these two communities had problems. They did not trust each other and often argued. The disagreements started long ago, and slowly the anger between them grew bigger and bigger. Over time, these arguments turned into fights. People from both sides hurt each other, and many families lost their loved ones. The older people would tell stories about these fights and remind everyone not to forget what happened. The younger people grew up with fear and anger in their hearts. They believed the other side was dangerous and could not be trusted. This made it very hard for anyone to talk about peace. The leaders of these communities were worried. They knew that if this hatred continued, a big war could happen. Such a war would bring more pain and suffering. The leaders did not want that. They wanted their people to live safely and happily. But the old anger was like a fire, burning strong and hard to stop. Many people in both communities wanted to fight. They thought war was the only way to protect their homes and families, yet the leaders knew they had to find another way. One day, the leaders from both sides met secretly. They wanted to find a solution to stop the fighting before it got worse. After many long talks, they decided on an unusual and bold plan. They would try to bring their communities together by using marriage. This idea was not new in history. Many times, when two groups or countries wanted peace, they joined families through marriage. This showed that they were united and could trust each other. The leaders believed that if they could make a strong marriage alliance, it would send a powerful message to the people. It was time to stop fighting and start living in peace. The man chosen for this plan was a young, respected man named Arman. He was brave and wise beyond his years. Arman was known for his kindness and his ability to listen. He cared deeply about his people and wanted peace more than anything. The woman he was to marry was named Layla. She was the daughter of the leader of the other community. Layla was beautiful and strong-willed. She loved her people and was proud of her family's history, but she was also known for being very independent. She did not like being told what to do, especially when it came to her personal life. When Arman was told about this plan, he felt mixed emotions. He was honored that his leaders trusted him with such an important task. But he also felt nervous. He was going to marry someone he barely knew, and it was not because of love, but because of a hope to bring peace. Arman wondered if the people on both sides would accept this marriage. He also worried about Layla. Would she agree? Would she trust him? Would she accept this marriage as a way to help their communities, or reject it because of old hatred? Layla was surprised when she heard the plan. At first, she did not want to marry Arman. To her, this was not a love story, but a political game. She did not want to be part of it. But her father, the leader, told her that this was the best chance to stop the war. He said that if she agreed, many people would be saved from pain and suffering. Layla was torn. She loved her people and wanted to protect them, but she also wanted to keep her freedom. After long thinking, she decided to accept the marriage, not because she loved Arman, but because she hoped this would bring peace to the land. The news of the marriage spread quickly. People from both communities were surprised. Some were happy and hopeful. They wanted the war to end and believed this marriage could help. Others were angry. They said that no marriage could change their minds about the enemy. They thought this was a betrayal. Arman and Layla both knew they had a difficult road ahead. They had to prove that this marriage was more than just a plan. It could be the start of a new beginning. The wedding was planned carefully. It was not just a ceremony, but a symbol of unity. Decorations mixed the traditions from both communities. There were songs and dances that showed respect to both cultures. The leaders made speeches about peace and hope. People watched the wedding with mixed feelings. Some cried tears of joy, dreaming of a peaceful future. Others watched with suspicion, waiting to see if this marriage would fail. On the wedding day, Arman and Layla stood side by side. Their faces showed calm, but inside their hearts were full of questions and doubts. They did not speak much. They knew this marriage was about more than just them. It was about their people's future. Layla wore a dress that blended the colors and styles of both communities. Armin looked proud and strong in his traditional clothes. The ceremony was beautiful, but there was a quiet tension in the air. After the ceremony, everyone expected the couple to share their first night together happily. But Layla surprised everyone. She refused to share the wedding night with Armin. This shocked many people. For her, marriage was not yet about love or closeness. It was a promise for peace, and she wanted to keep her distance until she could be sure this was the right path. Armin respected her choice. He understood that trust could not be forced. He knew that winning her trust would take time and patience. The people of the two communities had mixed reactions. Some understood Layla's feelings, knowing that wounds from the past did not heal overnight. Others criticized her, saying she was being stubborn. Armin stood quietly, waiting for the right moment to show her kindness. He wanted to prove that he was not just a political tool, but someone who cared about her and their future. The first part of this story ends with the wedding day, full of hope but also full of questions. It shows how two people, chosen to unite their people, must face their own fears and doubts. It tells us that peace is not easy, but sometimes it starts with small steps, a marriage, a promise, and the hope that one day trust will grow and hearts will heal. After the wedding, life for Armin and Layla did not become easy. Although they were now married, there was a strong wall between them. The wedding had been full of hope for the people around them, but for Armin and Layla, it was the beginning of a very difficult journey. They both had to learn how to live together, even though their hearts were full of fear and doubt. Layla was a proud woman. She had always been taught to protect her community and her family's honor. She had seen many hard things in her life. Her family had suffered a lot because of the long conflict between the two communities. Because of this, she was careful about trusting anyone, especially Armin. To her, Armin was from the other side, the side her people had fought against for many years. Even though they were now husband and wife, Layla felt that she could not simply forget the past. On the other hand, Armin was patient and kind. He understood Layla's feelings. He knew that their marriage was not a typical one filled with love and happiness from the start. It was a marriage built on hope for peace, and that hope needed time to grow. Armin respected Layla's decision to keep her distance, especially on the wedding night. He did not want to force her or rush her. Instead, he chose to be gentle and respectful. The first few days after the wedding were quiet. Armin and Layla lived in the same house, but they spent much of their time apart. Layla kept to her room, avoiding long conversations or closeness. She did not want to pretend that everything was fine. She needed time to think and heal. Armin understood this and did not complain. Instead, he focused on small things to show his care, like bringing her food or books she liked. Outside the house, the communities watched closely. Some people were hopeful that this marriage would bring peace. They talked about how important it was for the two families to unite. Others were suspicious and angry. They did not believe that a marriage alone could stop years of hatred. Rumors spread quickly. Some said Layla was refusing to share the wedding night because she hated Armin. Others believed Armin was only interested in power. These rumors made things even harder for the young couple. One day, Armin decided to talk to Layla. He wanted to understand her better. He knocked on her door and spoke softly. "Layla, I know this is not easy. I do not expect you to change your feelings overnight. But I want you to know that I respect you. I want us to work together for peace, not just for our people, but for ourselves too." Layla listened quietly. She did not answer at first because her heart was still full of doubts. But Armin's words made her think. Layla remembered the pain, she had seen in her family. She remembered the nights when her father worried about the safety of their people. She knew that if the fighting continued, more families like hers would suffer. Yet trusting Armin was difficult. He was from the other side, and old fears were strong. She did not want to hurt him, but she was afraid. Slowly, Layla began to open up. She shared stories about her childhood and the losses her family had faced. She talked about her fears and hopes for the future. Armin listened with care and did not judge. He shared his own feelings, too. He told her about his desire for peace and how much he wanted to help both communities heal. These talks were small steps, but they started to break the silence between them. Armin also made efforts to learn about Layla's culture. He joined her in ceremonies and traditions, showing respect for her people's ways. Layla noticed this and appreciated his effort. She started to see that Armin was not just a stranger or an enemy. He was someone who wanted to build a future together. This did not mean she was ready to be close yet, but it was a beginning. Meanwhile, the leaders from both communities continued their work for peace. They saw the marriage as a symbol, but they knew the real work was in bringing the people together. Meetings were held and talks started to solve old problems. The marriage helped to soften some hearts, but many challenges remained. In the house, the days passed with small moments of connection. Armin and Layla shared meals and conversations. They laughed sometimes, and sometimes they sat in silence, understanding that healing took time. Layla still refused to share the wedding night, but she no longer saw Armin as an enemy. She was learning to trust him slowly, and that gave her hope. One evening, Layla told Armin about a dream she had. In her dream, the two communities were no longer fighting. Children from both sides played together in the fields. Families shared food and stories without fear. Layla said, "Maybe this marriage is not just about us. Maybe it is about something bigger." Armin smiled and said, "Yes, it is about peace, and we will do it together." Their relationship was far from perfect, but it was real. They both knew that this was not a fairy tale, but a journey of patience and courage. The refusal to share. The wedding night was not a sign of failure, but a sign of respect and understanding of each other's pain. The second part of this story shows that peace does not come easily. Sometimes it begins with silence and distance. It is built slowly, through respect, patience, and small acts of kindness. Armin and Layla's marriage was not just about two people coming together. It was about two communities learning to heal. This part of the story reminds us that true peace needs time and understanding. It teaches us that even when hearts are afraid, trust can grow when people choose kindness over anger. The journey had just begun, and the next steps would be even more challenging, but Armin and Layla were ready to face them together. After the wedding, many days passed, but the silence between Armin and Layla remained strong. Even though they lived under the same roof, their hearts were still far apart. Layla had not changed her mind about keeping her distance, especially on the wedding night. This silence was difficult for Armin, but he never lost hope. Layla's refusal to share the wedding night was more than just a personal choice. It was a symbol of the deep hurt and mistrust she carried inside her. For many years, her family had suffered because of the fights and violence between the two communities. She remembered the nights when her home was not safe, the times when friends and family were taken away by war. These memories made it hard for her to trust Armin. No matter how kind he was, Armin understood this pain. He did not see her refusal as rejection, but as a cry for time and healing. He knew that trust was not something that could be demanded or rushed. Instead, it needed to grow slowly, like a small plant reaching for the sun. Armin decided to be patient and respectful, hoping that one day Layla would open her heart. In the days and weeks after the wedding, Armin focused on building a friendship with Layla. He listened when she spoke, even if her words were few. He helped her with small tasks around the house and made sure she felt safe. Sometimes they would share meals in silence, but that silence was filled with a quiet understanding. Armin wanted Layla to know that he was not just a stranger from the other side, but someone who cared deeply about her well-being. Layla, on her part, was surprised by Armin's patience. She had expected anger or pressure, but instead she found kindness. This kindness made her feel confused. She wanted to stay strong for her people, but she also began to wonder if maybe Armin was different. Maybe he was not the enemy she had always imagined. One afternoon, Layla invited Armin to walk with her in the garden near their home. The garden was a peaceful place filled with colorful flowers and tall trees. As they walked slowly, Layla started to talk about her childhood. She told Armin stories about her favorite places, her dreams before the war, and the friends she had lost. For the first time, she shared her fears and sadness. Armin listened carefully and shared his own stories. He talked about his hopes for peace and his wish to build a future without violence. This walk in the garden was a turning point. It was the first time they connected not as strangers or enemies, but as two human beings with feelings and dreams. Layla still kept her distance, but a small seed of trust had been planted. Meanwhile, outside their home, the two communities were watching the marriage closely. Some people hoped the marriage would bring peace, but many still doubted. The news that Layla refused to share the wedding night spread quickly. Some people thought it was a bad sign, believing the marriage was failing. Others understood that healing took time, and that Layla's feelings were valid. Armin's patience and respect began to change some minds. People saw that he was not forcing Layla or trying to take advantage of her. Instead, he was trying to build a real relationship based on respect. This gave hope to those who wanted peace. At the same time, Layla struggled with her feelings. She was caught between her duty to her people and her growing respect for Armin. She did not want to betray her community's trust, but she also did not want to live a life full of fear and anger. Her heart was confused, but she knew she had to be honest with herself. One evening, Layla shared her thoughts with Armin. She said, "I don't know if I can ever fully trust you or what this marriage means for us, but I want to try. Not for the sake of others, but for myself. I want to believe in peace, even if it feels impossible." Armin smiled gently and said, "We will take it one day at a time. I will be here, no matter what." Their words brought comfort to both of them. They knew the road ahead was not easy, but they were willing to walk it together. They still had many challenges to face, but for the first time, there was a feeling of hope. In the weeks that followed, Armin and Layla continued to grow closer. They found small ways to connect, like sharing meals, listening to music, and learning about each other's traditions. Layla still refused to share the wedding night, but she no longer felt distant. She began to see Armin as a partner in the journey toward peace. This part of the story shows that true healing takes time and patience. It is not about rushing or forcing feelings, but about understanding and respecting each other's pain. Armin and Layla's journey was just beginning, but they had taken important steps toward building trust. Their story teaches us that peace is not just about agreements or ceremonies. It is about the hearts of people learning to forgive and trust again. Even when the past is painful, there is always hope for a better future, when people choose kindness over anger. The refusal to share the wedding night was not a failure, but a sign of respect for the past and a hope for a new beginning. It reminded everyone that real peace is fragile but possible if people are willing to be patient and open their hearts. As the days turned into weeks, Armin and Layla's relationship slowly began to change in ways that no one had expected. They were still cautious with each other, but the walls they had built were starting to come down bit by bit. What began as a marriage based on duty and hope for peace was turning into something more real and meaningful. Layla started to see Armin not just as a symbol of the other side, but as a person who truly cared about her and her community. She noticed how patiently he listened to her and how he tried to understand her feelings. Armin did not rush her or force her to be close before she was ready. Instead, he showed respect for her boundaries and took time to learn about her culture, customs, and traditions. This respect made Layla feel valued, not just as a wife, but as a person. One afternoon, they spent hours talking about their hopes and dreams for the future. Layla shared how she wanted her people to live in peace, without fear. Armin spoke about his desire to see children from both communities playing together without hatred. These conversations brought them closer because they realized they both wanted the same thing, a better life for everyone. Layla also began to visit Armin's community with him. At first, she was nervous and unsure. The memories of past conflicts were still fresh, and some people were not welcoming. But as she met families and neighbors who were also tired of fighting and wanted peace, Layla's heart softened. She saw that her people were not so different from Armin's. Both sides had suffered, both wanted safety, and both dreamed of a peaceful future. Armin and Layla started attending community meetings together. Their marriage became a symbol not just for the leaders but for the ordinary people as well. They showed others that peace was possible when people chose to work together instead of fight. The couple encouraged others to talk, share stories, and find common ground. As trust grew between Armin and Layla, small moments of closeness began to happen naturally. They laughed together, shared meals, and even helped each other with daily tasks. Although Layla still hesitated to fully embrace her role as a wife in the traditional sense, she no longer refused to spend time with Armin. The fear and anger that once kept her distant were replaced by hope and a willingness to try. Their growing partnership inspired many. People from both communities started to believe that peace was not just a dream, but something they could build together. The marriage had helped open a door that had been closed for many years. However, challenges remained. Some people still resisted the idea of peace and spread rumors to create mistrust. Armin and Layla had to be strong and continue their work to show that love and respect could overcome fear. They understood that peace was not easy and required courage from everyone involved. Layla and Armin also faced their own personal challenges. They had to overcome doubts and fears about their future together. But with each day, their bond grew stronger. They learned to support each other and to face problems as a team. This partnership was a powerful example of how people from different backgrounds could come together and find strength in unity. Their story showed that peace was more than just an agreement or a ceremony. It was built through understanding, patience, and genuine care for one another. The refusal to share the wedding night had been a beginning, not an end. It had taught them to respect each other's feelings and to build trust step by step. Layla's journey from fear to hope inspired many women and men alike. Her courage to open her heart slowly proved that healing takes time but is possible. Armin's patience and kindness showed that true leadership means listening and caring for others. As they stood side by side, they knew their marriage was no longer just about preventing a war. It was about building a new future together. One where peace was possible because people chose love over hate. Months passed, and the once distant marriage between Armin and Layla transformed into a true partnership. The wedding night that Layla had refused months ago was no longer a symbol of division, but became a moment they both chose to share with respect and care. This night was not rushed or forced, but came naturally after months of understanding and trust. Their relationship had grown beyond what anyone expected. What started as a political marriage to stop a war had become a real story of love, respect, and hope. They had learned to see each other as individuals, not just representatives of their communities. This personal connection made their message of peace stronger than ever. The news of their growing bond spread throughout the region. People saw that the young couple was not just pretending, but truly building a life together. This gave courage to others who wanted peace but were afraid. Slowly, the walls of suspicion and hatred between the two communities began to crumble. Arman and Layla continued to work hard to bring their people together. They organized gatherings where families from both sides shared food, music, and stories. They encouraged children to play together and adults to talk openly about their fears and hopes. These simple acts created a sense of unity that had been missing for generations. The leaders of both communities saw the success of Arman and Layla's marriage and started new talks to solve other problems peacefully. The young couple's example gave hope that long-lasting peace was possible, not just through agreements, but through real relationships. Arman and Layla also faced difficulties. Not everyone accepted their marriage or their message of peace. Some still held on to old grudges and spread fear, but the couple stayed strong. They knew that peace was a journey with ups and downs. They reminded each other that every small step forward was important. One day, Arman and Layla visited the place where their communities had once fought the hardest. They stood together, holding hands, and promised to keep working for peace. Their love was now a symbol of hope that no conflict was too big to overcome. Their story inspired many beyond their own communities. People from other places heard about how a marriage had stopped a war and brought two sides together. It showed that peace begins when people choose to understand and respect each other, even when it is hard. Arman and Layla's journey was proof that healing takes time but is possible. Their refusal to rush into closeness on the wedding night had not been a failure but a lesson in patience and respect. It had made their love stronger and their message clearer. In the end, their marriage was more than a promise to prevent war. It became a living example of how courage, kindness, and trust can heal even the deepest wounds. Their story showed that peace is not just about stopping fighting, but about building a future where everyone feels safe and valued. As they looked toward the future, Arman and Layla dreamed of a world where their children and grandchildren would never know the pain of war. They hoped that their love would continue to inspire peace for many years to come. And so, what began as a marriage to stop a war ended as a powerful story of love, hope, and the incredible strength of the human heart.